Let's bring to order the June Capital Program Committee. Do we have members of the public, Ms. King, that
Yes.
are registered to speak?
Good afternoon, Chair. We have 7 members of the public registered to speak today, 4 in person and 3 virtual. As a reminder, we ask that all our public speakers please adhere to the MTA rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. The first speaker will be Bruce Haynes, followed by Jason Anthony.
Good morning, Chairman Jano and committee. The CPOC, is it, or you left out oversight? Anyway, it's nice to have a good streamlined name. I was at Jamaica. I go, a couple of times a month by LIRR, and I wanted to see how the bird bath there was doing, the permanent bird bath where they don't have drainage and it's eating away at the profile of structural members, I should think. Of course, that's the Port Authority's, is it? I don't know. The Port Authority designed the Jamaica, the air train, and it's inferior sort of to the station. It's an iconic station. You should see that it gets kept up. And I came in over that flyover. The propaganda kink is still there. The DOT has finished with that bridge now, as far as I can tell. So it's upgraded. So why the propaganda kink in the middle of the flyover? That should be a 45-mile-an-hour curve there. It's 100 feet broader by radius than the Frankfurt curve. So why not 40 anyway, as long as you're right next to the platforms? That's what it should be. And then you come in and you see spalled tracks. You see stuff that hasn't had any attention paid to it in years. All the tracks are worn perfectly flat. And you have spalling. When you have spalling on switches like that, it gets removed. That's the rule, isn't it? So why doesn't it happen? You've changed.
Please
right,
conclude your
you
remarks.
Thank you very much. I'd like to see something happen fast.
Our next speaker is Jason Anthony, followed by Jack Connors.
Good afternoon, Jano, Jamie, and the rest of the Capital Construction meeting. On the Monday after my 38th birthday. Thank you. Let's talk about rolling stock. That's the topic that's on the agenda this month. It is so lovely to see the updates regarding the R211s and the M9s. It is good that we have almost 24 of the R211 combined. Let's say between the R211As, Ts, and S already in town. We will want to say goodbye to the old R46 because it's older than myself and it needs to get some rest, and same as the Metropolitans, in other words, the M3. But at the same time, we need more accessibility, and that is in part, this is why we need congestion pricing, because we need more accessibility, and this is why we need more rolling stock, and this is why we need more buses, and this is why we need zero emissions fleet, and this is why New York State is called the Empire State, and this is why New York leads the way. By the way, Jano, read the article that appears in the New York Times. I read it, is the perfect recipe that why congestion pricing needs to go forward. And this is why New York sets a sample for everything. I'll see you guys later.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jack Connors, followed by Jessica Figueroa. I'm sorry, Jesse Figueroa.
Good afternoon. I'm Jack Connors, Research and Communications Associate at PCAC. East Harlem has dreamed of transit access for decades, and we're committed to getting the job done. I'm committed to improving accessibility across the MTA and ensuring the disability community has a voice and a seat at the table in deciding the future of transit in New York. New train cars, additional security cameras, and more reliable service will make the subway system even better for decades to come. All these are statements made by Governor Hochul, formerly MTA riders' best friend. Now, it feels like we're estranged roommates. We don't have to think back to 2017 to understand the consequences of transit disinvestment. Just look west to our friends in New Jersey, who saw 3 consecutive days of meltdowns on NJ Transit, as our region experienced 3 consecutive days of air quality alerts, even as their fares are set to go up 15% on July 1st. Now, with an indefinite pause on congestion pricing, and no plan to close a $15 billion hole in the capital plan, much less address gridlock traffic or street safety, air quality issues, and climate change concerns, New Yorkers are staring down a status quo we know all too well. Disinvestment in the MTA system and despair for the riders across the region who count on it. This not only gouges a $15 billion hole in the MTA's capital plan, including $3 billion for the commuter rails, it puts billions of dollars of hard-fought federal matching funds in jeopardy and destabilizes the historic agreement on operating funding reached during last year's state budget, potentially leading to layoffs, more drastic fare increases, and service cuts. Transit's the lifeblood of our city and a climate solution, but you get what you pay for, and nothing gets cheaper the longer you wait. We're told everything that will be fine, that $15 billion will materialize out of our imagination, but we can't have it both ways. As Jamie always says, you cannot award contracts without a revenue source, and without congestion pricing, there is no revenue source and no plan B. So, Governor Hochul, riders deserve to know, what's your plan? When will you unpause the pause and get the MTA back on track? And its riders as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have our virtual speakers. I see that we have 2 extra speakers
Ms.
added.
King, I think you missed Mr. Figueroa.
Oh, you're right, Chair. Sorry, Mr. Figueroa.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. You too, sir. Jesse Figueroa here, U.S. Army veteran, member of the MTA, Long Island Railroad Accessibility Task Force. I do not agree with Governor Hochul's decision to delay congestion pricing. It is crucial that we need the funding for MTA accessibility. I'm also an advocate and a veteran with a disability. We just need the funding for our station, such as elevators, ramps, and other things. And we just need the funding to make sure this happens. Thank you and God bless.
Thank you. We now are moving to our virtual speakers. Originally, we had 3 speakers. We now have 5. We will start with Charlton D'Souza. Following him, Senator Jessica Scarcella Spanton.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the president of Passengers United. So the Hollis LIRR project has been put on hold by the MTA, as was announced yesterday in the New York Post. And the contractor had already started the work, put the gating. So this is obviously directed towards Passengers United because we fought so hard and we supported the Hollis LIRR station. Now I have a question for all of you. We were told by MTA Capital Construction and by MTA officials that the Hollis LIRR station was not included in congestion pricing, and it wasn't funded by the congestion pricing money. Okay, now I have a question for you. So why is that project canceled? The Forest Hills project canceled, but the Babylon project is still on. What's really going on here? So you guys are trying to hold us hostage because you want your congestion pricing money. Well, too bad, because guess what? We're not supporting congestion pricing, and we still won't support it. Because in 2008, the MTA was the fifth largest debtor in the United States. How come none of the advocates have mentioned this? How come none of the board members are concerned about this? I mean, why should the taxpayers of New York State give more money to an agency when you guys were the fifth largest debtor? And actually, the debt has actually gone up now, twice as much. So that's the concern. So all I would say to all of you, for all of us who do not support congestion pricing, call your elected officials. Keep pushing. Because when we told the chairman we wanted the MT funded by corporations, why can Amazon pay a tax? Why can that be done? And you have corporate sponsorships. We were told by the chairman corporate sponsorships couldn't be done. I think it's something that we need to go back to, and another look needs to be taken at it. Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon, and bye.
The next speaker is Senator Jessica Scarcella Spanton, followed by Assemblyman David Weapon.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Senator Jessica Scarcella Spanton. I represent the North and East Shore of Staten Island and Southern Brooklyn. I want to personally thank the governor for putting a pause on congestion pricing. This is the wrong plan for my constituents. Not only do Staten Islanders and Coney Islanders have some of the longest commutes in the country, we also have some of the highest tolls as well. Beyond just the economic burden that this would place on my constituents, the crux of the reason why I will never be supporting congestion pricing is that the air quality would decrease and get worse on the North Shore of Staten Island, which is predominantly Black and Hispanic, while getting better in the Central Business District. I don't think that it's fair to put one borough over the other when it's in terms of the environmental issues. We already have extremely high asthma rates. We have respiratory issues, and I would never support a plan that would put one borough over the other and call it an environmental plan. And to the point of the last person who just spoke, there are so many projects that are already in the pipeline that were not dependent on congestion pricing that are now being pulled and canceled. While I think it's really important that we fund the MTA appropriately, especially for our disability community, making sure that our subways are accessible, this is not the path forward, and I will not be supporting this plan, nor will I support any plan that adds an additional burden to our already burdened constituents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Assemblyman David Weapon, followed by Jasmine Robinson.
Good afternoon. I'm Assemblyman David Weprin, and as the representative for the 24th Assembly District in Queens, I was pleasantly surprised by Governor Kathy Hochul's decision to indefinitely pause the implementation of congestion pricing. Rather than seeing this as a cynical calculation, as some have alleged, I see the governor's decision as a deeply pragmatic response to the crescendo of public concerns that I and many others have raised for many years. Much of my district in Queens is a public transit desert and will be one of the most adversely impacted by the proposed congestion pricing tax. The middle-class communities in New York City cannot afford a tax hike in the form of congestion pricing, which will add hundreds of dollars in additional monthly expenses for working-class families and will serve as yet another tax on New York's middle class. I believe there are other alternatives to help fund the MTA. I propose an adopt a station or adopt a bus stop program, just like we have Citi Field that gives naming rights to Citibank, who pays an annual fee, a substantial annual fee.
Should we go to the next speaker?
Next speaker is Jasmine Robinson, followed by Theo Allen.
Jazzy Robinson. I am female district leader of the 61st Assembly District, which is in Staten Island, and I'm also the vice president of the NAACP, the Staten Island branch. And I just want to commend my state senator, Jessica Scarcella-Spanton, for defending and protecting our district, because of the fact is that we in the North Shore will be heavily and greatly impacted if congestion pricing goes through. The NAACP, the Staten Island branch, supports the governor, and we stand with our local elected officials in being against congestive pricing. Again, this will be an undue economic burden to our community, and also an environmental issue for our community. As noted by our state senator, we are greatly impacted by high cancer rates, respiratory illnesses, and asthma. And I am personally affected by it because my younger sister is asthmatic, and this plan, should it go through, will greatly impact her health. And regarding with me, being that I travel to the city on a regular basis, and this will be an economic burden to me as well, and other working class folks in this community. This is not right. This is not fair, and we are going to stand against it. But we are pleased that the governor heard our pleas, and I hope that she remains steadfast against congestive pricing. This is not the right plan. There are other ways that we can get funding. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our final speaker is Theo Allen.
I want to thank the MTA board for holding these public comment period, but contrary to what I have heard all across the hearings and the comments for the capital program, the MTA must by law implement congestion pricing, unless the legislature somehow wants to change that requirement set by the 2019 budget bill. Because the MTA has no discretion but to implement it, why is the MTA pausing congestion pricing should be the question on everyone's minds. The answer is she has basically directed the MTA to not implement it through the Department of Transportation not signing the value pricing pilot program, which we know that the Federal Highway Authority is saying that they will offer it if the governor will suspend the pause. This is unlawful, and I urge the MTA to file an Article 78 proceeding immediately and board members against the Department of Transportation, the Commissioner, and the Chief Engineer of the Department of Transportation to force them to implement congestion pricing through signing this agreement. In addition, I urge advocates to file an Article 78 if the MTA board does not take the correct steps to file such a proceeding to force Governor Hochul to implement congestion pricing. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair, that concludes the public comment session.
Thank you, Ms. King, and thank you to our public speakers. I'm going to turn it over to Jamie Torres Springer for the President's report, but I think we're going to start with the procurements, if I'm not mistaken, in light of the schedule of some of our board members. So, Jamie, have at it.
Thank you, Chair. Over to Ms. Boudoir for the procurements.
Thank you. Construction and Development is presenting one procurement action totaling $2.9 million to the Capital Program Committee for approval this month. The item is a ratification to modify a contract to replace the transformer and rectifier at the 62nd Road substation. This item is described in detail in the staff summary contained within your committee books, and I hereby submit it for your consideration and vote.
Hearing no questions or comments, I'll take a motion. Thank you, Ms. Barbas. Second, Dr. Rizzo. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition or abstention? The item is carried. Are there any other procurements, Ms. Boudoir?
No, they're not.
Okay. Mr. Torres Springer, your report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Today will be based on the work plan, which hasn't changed. We will be reporting to the committee on the status of rolling stock production efforts, as well as diversity efforts within the MTA, and our Chief Diversity Officer, Lourdes Zapata, is here with us to report on that item. You can see here, we're proud that the Amityville station opened as fully ADA accessible last week. That's the second Long Island Railroad station that's part of that package, and we have Lindenhurst coming up as well. I do want to share an update on the status of the Park Avenue Viaduct. I think we mentioned at last month's Capital Program Committee meeting that we were making steady progress and we're about to begin the process of replacing the first segment of the viaduct. And so we've created a little animation here to show you exactly what's happening. As the board will recall, the viaduct carries 98%. Actually, hang on, let me pause this because I think there's a little captioning. The viaduct carries 98% of Metro North service. We have found that it is substantially in disrepair, and in the effort to ensure that we are attacking the state of good repair needs to support safe and reliable existing service. That has been the focus of the MTA for some time. We awarded this design build project to fully replace the first section, phase 1 of the Park Avenue Viaduct, without any disruption in service whatsoever. And here, this video will show you exactly how that's happening. No? I don't know. I may have broken it, but okay, here we go.
Here you go. This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is innovative construction.
What street is that at?
This is 115th Street, 117th Street, where we did the first section of it last weekend. So you can see basically what we're doing is removing a full section of the viaduct. We've got the substructure in place that's already been rebuilt, and so this is just a matter of on a weekend removing a section and then putting the new section into place. You can see it getting dropped in here. Reconnecting everything with those gantries that we put in place so that we wouldn't be relying on cranes. And then you can see putting the new superstructure into place. That usually happens by Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. And then as it says there, the track, the third rail, the signals get fully restored, usually over the course of Sunday. And then the test train runs through, and by Monday, the new section is in service. Actually, that was our first effort at this last weekend. This past weekend, concluding last night, we replaced 3 full sections of the viaduct over the course of one weekend. And, really impressive effort by Metro North, our railroad business unit, our project CEO, Michael Sheehan, sort of seems to not sleep for weeks on end in order to coordinate all of this, and it's being run very smoothly, even in the heat this weekend. As I say, we got 3 sections replaced. So great progress investing in state of good repair. As you know, we're preparing a presentation for Wednesday's board meeting on the capital reprioritization effort that Tim Mulligan is leading within C&D, along with some of our other colleagues. No news or updates on that today. We're saving the story for Wednesday for the full board, so we'll be back to you on that. And with that, we're going to get to the rolling stock updates from the various agencies. I took note that we were having some trouble tracking down Sue Coe from New York City Transit. I could probably deliver this. I'm just sort of checking my notes here and seeing what our team is saying. Okay, so we're gonna skip ahead and ask Craig Daly from Long Island Railroad to give us a status update on the M9 production.
Thank you, Jamie. Good afternoon. I'm Craig Daly, Chief Rolling Stock Programs Officer from Long Island Railroad, and I'll be presenting on Long Island's M9 project. Next slide, please. The M9 trains continue to be a critical part of Long Island Railroad's modernization strategy to provide more reliable and comfortable equipment for our customers. They operate in our electric territory and have provided the additional capacity necessary to provide service to Grand Central Madison. Since our last report, the budget has remained on track and is forecasted to do so, continue to do so. I'm also happy to report that on April 3rd of this year, when 9201 and 9202 rolled into Queens, the final shipment of the 202-car order occurred, and all M9s have been delivered. I'm also happy to report that our efforts in working closely with Kawasaki and the sub-suppliers to quickly tackle any reliability affecting issues has paid off. The 12-month average mean distance between failures increased by more than 40% as compared to the same time last year, and it exceeds our contractual requirement by over 160%. And if there are no questions, I could turn it over to our IEC.
There was some, we did conditional acceptance of some with some defects that didn't prevent us from putting the cars into use. Where do we stand on the correction of those, punch list type defects?
So we have 12 cars yet to be conditionally accepted that are being, some are still in operational testing. 4 of those cars have just completed the 1,000-mile operational testing and are ready to be conditionally accepted. And there's some cars still remaining in Art Street getting some punch list items completed. So those will be done by the end of the year. Right now we're forecasting by September. We have the cars that are conditionally accepted. We have a modification program ongoing. So they're right now they're working through with all the vendors and sub-suppliers of the systems and getting parts and kits ready. And for the mods that are ready to be installed, we have a couple cars out of service in Art Street getting those modifications installed.
And so that we're not losing any utility from the process of having those cars rotated out of operation so these punch list type items can be addressed?
Correct. We're going to continue to rotate cars through Art Street for that.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Suresh?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon. My name is Suresh Payeti, Program Director of the IEC, and I will be reporting on IEC's review of the MTA's rolling stock. The IEC is reporting on 4 vehicle procurement programs, which begin on page 22 of your committee book. On the LIRR M9 railcar program, the project reports a current budget of $736 million and forecasts an EAC of $735 million, and the IEC concurs with the forecast. Regarding schedule, all 202 cars were delivered to LIRR's facilities in April and forecast conditional acceptance of the last vehicles by December of this year. We concur with the acceptance will likely be completed by December 2024, a 12-month slip from the IEC's previous forecast caused by ongoing quality issues and parts shortages. The IEC continues to support the LIRR practice of holding off on vehicle acceptance until all quality issues have been addressed as per contractual requirements. The IEC notes that the mean distance between failure rate continues to far exceed contract requirements, a very positive measure of car quality.
Thank you, and thanks to the IEC, and we're pleased to note that the project remains on budget. So I believe we have Sue Ko from New York City Transit Car Equipment online now. Yeah?
Yes, can you hear me?
There we go.
Okay.
Okay,
I
welcome,
apologize.
welcome, Sue. I'll work your slides for you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Like I said, I apologize, got the dates mixed up. But we'll start. My name is Sue Ko, Vice President and Chief Mechanical Officer for Car Equipment, Department of Subways. Today, I'll be updating the New York City Transit's R211 program. Since our last report to the CPC, our budget remains on track. with the base order of $1.75 billion and option one at $1.92 billion. Unfortunately, there was a schedule delay due to assembly workmanship issues at one of the gear case suppliers. Rework was completed at that supplier, at KMM, and at New York City Transit. There were 70 R211A cars affected by this. Some were in service, and 5 R211S cars in Staten Island that require rework. This impacted the car delivery schedule, but all has been addressed as of today. Okay. On the production side, I'm happy to report there is a high level of activity on KMM's production lines, as shown in this photo. At the last CPC, Kawasaki was still concerned with maintaining a full staff due to the low unemployment rate at Lincoln, Nebraska. But confirmed by our oversight and monthly reviews with Kawasaki, the Lincoln, Nebraska facility has continuously remained fully staffed. Next slide, please. Okay, and with a full staff, Kawasaki was able to achieve a production rate of 1 car a day. This photo takes a closer look at the stations at KMM where there are only R211 cars being produced. Now I'll be updating the status of each car type, starting with the R211A. We currently receive 235 cars with 200 cars, 20 trains accepted, 19 trains released to service, and 1 train being used for CBTC testing. The remaining 35 cars are going through various stages of acceptance tests, and Kawasaki is projecting 355 cars delivered by the end of 2024. Next, the R211S. Staten Island cars were transferred to the Staten Island Railway for testing in October of 2023. During qualification tests for the new ATC, we found an issue with the software. Countermeasures were developed by Kawasaki and Alstom with a target to complete by August of 2024. Once the correction is implemented, in-service 30-day test is scheduled to start in the middle of August of 2024. And at the completion of the 30-day test, we'll begin delivery of the production cars, targeting Q4 of 2024. Now I want to discuss the R211 open gangway status. Both trains went into service on February 1st, 2024. This was the start of the in-service evaluation, where some key parameters will be monitored as listed. We are targeting completion of this effort in Q4 of 2024. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Suresh?
Sure. On the R211 subway car program, the project budget and estimated completion EAC of $3.67 billion has not changed since our last report. The IEC notes that the rate of production of subway cars under this contract has dramatically improved since our last report in May of 2023. Although the R211 program has experienced a 4-month schedule slip, the schedule has stabilized, and at this point, approximately 1 car per day is completed, which meets production requirements. The project schedule currently reflects a final conditional acceptance date of May 2025 for the base order of 535 cars. To date, approximately 235 R211A cars have been shipped, and 200 of those have been conditionally accepted, and 190 are available for revenue service. Since last report, the required conditional acceptance date for the balance of the full fleet of 440 R211A cars for the 8th Avenue CBTC project has shifted from January to May 2025. In the IEC's opinion, this date is achievable, but an additional 1 to 3 month schedule slip is possible based on prior history during production and testing. The CBTC project and R211 vehicle delivery must continue to be closely coordinated. The IEC endorses initiatives underway to ensure that fleet performance meets or exceeds the requirements. The IEC would like to echo SUCO's recommendation of the successful rollout of the open gangway cars. Lastly, the IEC notes that the project team has implemented recommendations mentioned in prior reports to more closely monitor schedule performance and car quality to good effect. That's it.
Thank you, Suresh. Any questions from the board members on the for Sue on New York City Transit deliveries?
I think Norm.
Yeah, the R211s that are destined for Staten Island, is there anything specific mechanically about them that could not be moved over to, the 4 other boroughs, since the representatives from Staten Island on the state, local, and federal level do not support the capital plan? Is there, since they don't really care, could we run them on like the A line or the?
We technically can, but there's some special features that we did for Staten Island, which we will have to look into to disable in order to run here on this side of the water. But once we resolve the software problem, which hopefully will be soon, and we should be able to start commissioning cars this year. But like I said, by the time we figure out how to disable some of the functions that Staten Island requires, the issue might have resolved itself already.
Yeah, that's just curiosity on my part. Now, the other question I got is...
Mr. Brown, I would just also note, the R44s on Staten Island are really very old. And the Staten Island Railway is an important part of the mass transit system in the region, and we're working to protect safe and reliable service across the entire MTA system.
I'm aware. That's why I support the capital plan. Now, the other question is on the Park Avenue train shed. Is the Park Avenue train shed part of the same financial tranche that pays for the viaduct? Thank you, Jano.
Separate projects, separate needs. We've started in looking ahead and planning for the future. We've started to look at the whole Grand Central Artery, which includes the historic terminal, as you mentioned, the train shed underneath the terminal, which really is in a state of disrepair and suffering particularly through the failure of waterproofing above Park Avenue. We've talked about that a lot. Into the tunnel that then leads up to the above-ground viaduct up to the Harlem River Lift Bridge. We're looking comprehensively at that and attacking wherever we have the means to the need to get the infrastructure in a state of good repair. So the viaduct consists now of 2 phases. The board approved the award of an additional work to do the 2nd phase of the viaduct. And the train shed, the first sector of the train shed work is getting done along with the construction of the J.P. Morgan Chase headquarters, up underneath Park Avenue. We're looking at how to implement future sectors of the train shed reconstruction. Unfortunately, until we get to it, we're really just slapping Band-Aids on it, but we still have to make those priority repairs. The question of whether we have the funding available for remaining work on the train shed is an open question at this point.
So it's possible that if we don't get the money, the train shed sleeps with the fishes?
Well, as I say, we'll continue to conduct priority repairs, which is we're going in and doing spot repairs to make sure that the structure stands and that we can provide safe and reliable service. In the long run, we do need to reconstruct the train shed in full.
Yeah, but I think the point of your question is well taken, which is this entire network supports 98% of Metro-North service, and all of it needs to be functional. So you're right that even as we're hearing about one project that is going really well, that Park Avenue Viaduct, very, very innovative, cost-saving construction that minimizes impacts to service. We're not going to be in good shape unless we have the tunnel in good shape and the train shed. And if you walk in that train shed, and I know you've done it, what you see is you get to the north end, and there's concrete spalling, there's exposed steel, because this is a 100-year-old structure that's been subjected to salt and water and chemicals like crazy from our friends in the utilities and everybody else poking holes. And it is deteriorating rapidly. It is one of the things that we want to accelerate into the next get going in the next capital program even faster. Although we took the first steps, big steps, in this capital program with that J.P. Morgan Chase deal that we cut. So we got to get going. Your point is well taken.
There are impressive stalagmites and stalactites in there, though.
Okay. Other questions, observations, or spelunking insights?
We have two more presentations.
Go for it.
Chair, Joe Reynolds on Metro North, the dual modes. I'll advance you here, Joe. There you go.
Jamie, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Joseph Reynolds. I'm the Senior Director for Rolling Stock Delivery and Integration for Metro North, and I'm here to provide a status update on the dual mode locomotives. Next slide, please. I've reintroduced this slide to highlight the importance of this program, specifically to provide a reliable and safe service to our riders in the non-electrified territory, but also to highlight also the significant environmental benefit that these locomotives will have on our service area. Obviously, it slashes the airborne emissions, nitrogen oxides and particulate matter by 86% and 84% respectively. It reduces carbon emission by 25 metric tons, and it expands the electric service, from 4 miles to 102 miles. Thank you. The program is on schedule and is on budget. The only change that we've had is that the CDOT has exercised the options for 6 locomotives. But overall, we are on target with our objectives. Next slide, please. This slide highlights the key milestones that we have accomplished. Where we are today is that we have 2 pilot locomotives that are undergoing type testing in Pueblo, Colorado. They were undergoing this testing for the next 6 months, at which time they will be delivered to Metro North. We will commence our commissioning activities and acceptance. So again, we are on target with our objectives. Any questions or comments?
On budget, on schedule, right, Joe?
Correct.
Yeah, good.
Mr. Glucksman.
Great report. Look forward to seeing them in service. But why do we have to have them out in Pueblo for 6 months?
To type testing. To basically what it boils down to is you validate all the propulsion, all the braking, you validate all the networking of the third rail collector assembly with the overall propulsion package of the locomotives, and you validate all the performance and functionality of all the systems on the locomotive.
And then we do it all over again here. Thank you.
Over to Suresh.
Metro North Dual Mode Locomotive Program. This project remains on schedule with the acceptance of all dual mode locomotives forecast for April 2027. Likewise, the current budget and EAC of $414 million remain unchanged since last report, and the IEC finds there is sufficient budget to complete the current scope of work. In the last report, the IEC noted that a diesel exhaust fluid storage and dispensing system, which is required for the diesel fuel additive to achieve the expected 85% emission reduction of the new locomotives, would be provided in a separate project. Discussions with MNR indicate that to date, a permanent solution and funding source have not been identified, but that a temporary solution using operating funds is under development, and that will be sufficient in the near term to maintain fleet operation.
Thank you, Suresh. No questions. The last presentation is from Danny Cardozo with Frank Anacaros here with us as well on status of the bus program.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Daniel Cardoza. I'm Vice President and Chief Maintenance Officer for buses. I will be providing the buses update. Let's begin with an overview of our current bus fleet. We have approximately 5,800 buses operating out of our 28 bus depots citywide. It is the largest fleet in the country, operating on one of the harshest duty cycles in North America. The useful life of a bus is 12 years, and our average fleet age is approximately 8 years. The capital program is vital in replacing our aging fleet as we continue to introduce new electric buses. A brief update to the 2015 through 2019 capital plan. To date, 98% of the buses have been accepted for revenue service. The remaining 2% are 45 battery electric buses currently in production. This order of 45 battery electric buses is combined with part of the 20 to 24 plan projects for a total of 60 buses. We have already received 6 of the battery electric buses, and we expect to have a full delivery this calendar year. The 20 to 24 capital program consists of 2,177 buses. Of the total program, 37% have been delivered, and another 9% are in production. 31% are in pre-production, and 5% are in the initial solicitation stages. 396 buses are currently in an open status, consisting of 265 battery electric buses, 21 articulated diesels, and 110 compressed natural gas buses. We currently have 8 bus contracts that are all on budget and are either in production or recently awarded in the first quarter of this year. Our managers meet regularly with principals and executive officers of each bus manufacturer to assist in resolving issues and mitigating further delays. We work closely with each bus manufacturer to ensure that only quality buses are accepted on a daily basis, and we continue to assess liquidated damages with every payment. Although the supply chain is still volatile, with alternate suppliers entering the market, we are actively testing new products to improve lead times for deliveries. I am pleased to report that our newest local hybrid and diesel buses are operating consistently, and our MDBF continues to improve. As we approach the 10,000-mile MDBF contract goal, the 40-foot local hybrid and diesel buses show a 13% improvement in lifetime MDBF. Our Prevost coaches, which operate in a different duty cycle, continue to excel with an MDBF average of over 22,000 miles in lifetime MDBF. We are continuing to make progress on our zero emissions bus fleet transition by 2040. As previously mentioned, we have already received 6 buses of the 60 battery electric buses that are already in production. The production for new Nova battery electric buses is underway. In-service and qualification testing will begin this summer. In early Q1 of this year, we awarded a contract for the purchase of 205 battery electric buses to New Flyer. Deliveries are planned to begin Q4 of next year. Lastly, New York City Transit will be purchasing hydrogen buses to test and evaluate a new zero emissions type of vehicle. This was made possible from a grant awarded to us from NYSERDA. We are currently in the process of testing several improvements to the bus operator compartment that will provide extra protection for our operators. The full driver enclosure will provide an unobstructed view of the windshield and entryway. We are currently testing prototypes on 2 local buses in service. In addition, our express buses are being delivered with a new driver's enclosure. Additional improvements for our operator compartment include the fresh air vent redesign to the side window. This will provide fresh air without the need to open the side window. This will provide further protection to prevent operator assaults. This design is currently being tested on 11 buses. In addition, e-mirrors use cameras to provide a better view of the surrounding environment of the bus for the operator, and reduces accidents involving impacts to mirrors. And currently, 25% of our collisions involve mirrors. E-mirrors are being tested on 6 buses. Our ACE program has been upgraded to allow for ticketing vehicles blocking bus stops, as well as enforcing and ticketing vehicles that are double parked along the route. This was made possible from legislation passed last year to expand this enforcement program. The MTA currently has over 600 buses equipped with ACE and plans to equip another 2,400 buses. Since the inception of the program, nearly 460,000 summonses have been issued across 21 routes covering all 5 boroughs. Data has shown an increase in bus speed, a reduction in collisions, and a success in deterring repeat offenders. And now our Senior Vice President of Buses, Frank Anacaro, would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just wanted to give the committee an update on a high level or a national effort that the MTA led. In the wake of COVID, we lost many bus manufacturers, and the ones that are existing were really on the brink of financial ruin. So, we saw if we're going to meet our future fleet goals, we needed to step in and take some national action. So the MTA, we began to work closely with the FTA and multiple other U.S. transit agencies to figure out ways that we can shore up the bus suppliers, and so that they have the necessary tools for success. So in February, then President Davey traveled to Washington, D.C. to participate in a White House roundtable on clean bus manufacturing in coordination with the FTA and APTA. The focus was on U.S. capacity to manufacture clean transit buses and transit buses in general at scale at a pace that is necessary to meet the market demand and achieve nationwide climate and equity goals. As co-chairs on this task force, the MTA and CTA, Chicago Transit Authority, presented recommendation for ways to strengthen bus manufacturers in the U.S. to meet these goals. And, and in a nutshell, we're happy to note that the FDA took the feedback, and they thereafter released a set of directives in the form of a Dear Colleagues letter dated February 7th, 2024, and that this letter outlines different steps and methods by which agencies can work more efficiently with bus manufacturers to ensure success. So, I want to point out, I commend the efforts of President Davey and CTA's Dorval Carter, because now this is providing us a means for bus manufacturers to help finance and also different terms and conditions for success. Now, moreover, additionally, the MTA, we took on an effort here to lead a holistic review that brings multiple transit agencies, the larger agencies together would have similar service levels, to develop a common specification for our buses. The aim was to specify a base bus model, something that could, we can all agree on, and then we could customize as needed in the future for that niche things. So we're undergoing right now this review. The aim is to streamline the production and the workflow for these buses, but also drive down the costs associated with the development of the bus and the customization. So I'm happy to report this is going well, and we should be wrapping this up soon. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank. Last IEC report.
The IEC is monitoring the entire bus procurement program as outlined in our report. 5 contracts reported on last year have been completed. The battery electric bus contract with NOVA has been further delayed, with initial delivery now planned for 2025. 4 contracts are active, with the deliveries underway. They remain on budget, but the delivery dates have slipped by several months since last year's report. The IEC concurs with the new delivery dates. 4 contracts identified in last year's report remain active in procurement. However, due to funding constraints, the number of buses in the base order have been reduced, with options added for the remaining vehicles. Additionally, 3 new solicitations are in process. Manufacturers and vendors have resolved previous technical and quality issues, and the IEC concurs with the MTA's strategy of not accepting buses that fail to meet contract requirements. Lastly, the IEC has reviewed the initial zero emissions fleet transition study, and we consider it to be a comprehensive document. We are aware of the many variables addressed by the plan between now and 2040 and will continue to monitor its implementation. In addition, the first quarter traffic light report and the rolling stock business unit summary are located on page 66 of the committee book for your review. The IEC's rolling stock business unit summary is represented by our review of 20 projects monitored for cost and schedule variances in the quarterly TLR. C&D's variance report for charging station installations at 5 bus depots is included in this month's CPC package with the overall quarterly TLR results for all MTA's agencies and business units. This concludes the IEC's update on the MTA's rolling stock.
Thank you. Any questions from committee members on bus rolling stock?
I just want to emphasize this is a serious challenge for the industry, and what Danny and Frank Anacaro just talked about is a major national issue, which is we don't have enough bus production capacity in the United States right now to meet the demand, especially as the whole world is going electric or hydrogen or zero emissions. So, the MTA is the largest customer, and to get a unified spec and other steps that will make it easier for foreign companies, where there's a lot of production capacity around the world, but that doesn't come to America because it's too complicated to get certified, to meet the standards of the Buy America, and because there's too much difference among the major customers in terms of the models that they want. We got to get, this really is really important for us and everybody in the United States who wants to get to a zero emissions fleet, Frank. So I just want to underscore for the board what a significant piece of our future in the rolling stock world. The whole rolling stock industry is a little bit roiled right now. Nova has gone out of business in the United States and consolidated back into Canada. We only have one certified manufacturer in the state of New York right now, New Flyer, right, Frank? So we're working hard to get some more certified manufacturers into New York and to meet MTA specifications in addition to this national effort that was discussed with you. You're going to hear a lot more about it in the months and years to come. There's just a little extra oomph on that one issue and the importance for all of us. Anything else that we want to discuss today?
We have an update from Lourdes Zapata on MWBE, DBE, and SDVOB participation.
Thank you, Jamie. Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, committee members and MTA colleagues. I'm pleased to be able to provide our report on engagement and goal attainment specific to MBE, MWBE, DBE, and SDVOB, specifically on the capital projects. Can you do the first slide, please? This chart represents the performance which FTA measures against DBE goals by contract awards. You'll see that for the reporting period of October 2023 through March of 2024, DBE firms were awarded $168 million in capital projects, or 11% of all of the capital awards that were issued. The payments to the DBE firms during the same period includes all active capital projects with goals for DBE participation and excludes rolling stock and signal contracts that were awarded. New York State, on the other hand, measures MWBE and SDVOB goal attainment by payments. And so for fiscal year 23-24, the MTA exceeded the MBE goal of 15% by 2%. We did fall short of the WBE goal of 15% by 3%. So we were at 17 and 2% respectively. The SDVOB goal, we achieved 4% of the 6% goal, but again, to note, these are specific to our construction contracts, not agency-wide. On an agency level, we're doing extremely well. We have exceeded our 6% goal Agency-wide for SDVOB, we're at 7%, and our 30% goal overall for the agency of 30%, we are at 34%. So we are doing well, but clearly the construction and capital projects are a significant piece of our ability to attain and exceed those goals. On the DBE work, as the MTA often employs a design-build approach when awarding its capital projects, prime contractors will typically identify subcontractors over the time as the design elements unfold. So we fully expect that we will be achieving our subcontracting goals over time as these projects continue. We've experienced more success when MWBE goals are applied to design-build projects and attribute this to the greater availability of New York State certified MWBE firms. We also noted that there seems to be a shortage of SDVOB firms that are certified for heavy civil construction, so that also poses a challenge for us. However, we continue to focus very much on outreach and identifying and engaging and helping to certify firms so that they can participate in our MWBE contracting. We reach out to advocacy groups, professional organizations, and our certifying partners so that we can identify certification eligible firms and help assist them in this process. In addition, as of May of 2024, USDOT, which manages the DBE program, officially increased their personal net worth cap for DBE firms in order to be certified. They increased it from 1.32 million to 2.047 million. So that does provide us an opportunity and a new subset of DBE firms that may be eligible to qualify as certified firms. And of course, here at the MTA, we also help. We have a strong certification team that can certify within 39 days firms that are seeking their DBE certification. So we do provide that support in-house. Next slide. In March of 2024, the MTA joined 55 public entities, including the cities of Philadelphia, County of Los Angeles, transportation agencies in Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, and Washington State, as well as private organizations and others, in signing a pledge to advance racial equity and support to underserved communities. The IEP was established in anticipation of the $1.2 trillion Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and to advance President Biden's Justice 40 initiative and his executive order pledging to increase by 2026 the share of federal contracts that go to small and disadvantaged businesses. Participating agencies are required to submit their information on existing subcontracting programs, including the utilization of small business enterprises, MWBEs, and DBEs. The MTA signed the pledge and will track and report our progress towards our pledge through December 2025. And our pledge includes awarding over $1 billion in contracts to MWBE and DBE firms each year. And as a reminder, in 2022-23, our performance exceeded this number. We did over $800 million in contract payments to MWBEs and over $392 million in contract awards to DBE firms. And we are also on track to exceed this $1 billion number this year in 2023-24. We also pledged to award larger contracts to small businesses, as well as expand the pool of MW and DBE firms that the MTA does work with. We are exploring award mechanisms for contracts over $10 million and also developing strategic outreach and a certification strategy for firms to be able to get them qualified to perform with us. And then lastly, we also pledged to increase discretionary contracts for design and engineering firms that are MWBE certified by 20% over the next 5 years. And the C&D team has done an amazing job of working towards that goal as well. We wanted to share, because utilization numbers are often shared in a vacuum, we wanted to provide you some insight on some specific firms that have been particularly successful over this last year. Collectively, these firms have secured over $104 million in prime contracts, starting with CRC Associates, which secured a $57 million contract as an electrical contractor. Eter Networks, which is a New York State certified WBE firm and is operating a $15 million contract as an electrical contractor. Whitewood Renovations is a service-disabled veteran firm, which is operating a $1.3 million contract to initiate repairs to the Yankee Stadium elevated station. And lastly, Voltamp Electrical Contractors is a Nassau County-based DBE firm working on a $31 million carpentry contract throughout Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens. So these are our highest performing prime contracting certified firms.
Can I just interrupt you? So, Mark Herbst, you know, I hope you can attest to the fact, Mark, that moving our M's and W's and SDVOB firms and DBEs up the scale so they can do bigger prime contracts is essential to growing the talent pool, right? This is really important for us because we have a shortage. We don't have enough contractors who can be prime at lots of different levels. So, you know, this is something that you, I know, in the industry have pushed for many years. Go ahead.
Thank you. And then on the topic of subcontractor awards, which we have 4 firms that are our top performers and represent $71 million in contracts that are awarded to certified firms. And these vendors are operating in construction, electrical contractor, and suppliers, and bridge construction. And you can see them here. It is Fine, FCS Incorporated at $20 million. Our MBE firm, our WBE firm is Northeast Structural Steel with a $15 million project. Our SDVOB firm, Citadel Electrical Supply, has a $4 million contract, and our DBE is Dashanu and Associates at $32 million. And these are all our top performing subcontractor awards. Next slide, please. Our small business development program is a real diamond in the crown of the MTA with respect to MWBE engagement. It's a program that has been in operation for over 10 years and has really been successful for us in our ability to engage MWBE and DBE firms. Through this program, we seek to contract with firms that will apply their construction management and oversight experience. We also provide guidance to small contracting opportunities and technical assistance support in the areas of how to do business with the MTA. We support their access to capital needs, securing insurance and bonding opportunities. We usually, this is a legislatively authorized program, and we are in the process of, we have issued a request for proposals to identify a new vendor that will be working with the MTA in supporting this program. Under Scope A of this program, that is specific to construction management programming, which is managed under the C&D department, and Scope B is the technical assistance support arm of the RFP, and that is handled by DDCR. The program, incredibly successful, in 2023 alone, awarded $68 million in prime contracting opportunities, and speaks directly to the chairman's point about our ability to not just identify firms that can operate as primes, but are also ready, willing, and able to grow into prime roles. To date, the program, since its inception, has awarded almost $700 million in contracts, and we've trained about 1,200 businesses. So it's an incredibly successful and critical program for the MTA and its ability to engage MWBEs in our contracting opportunities. And then lastly, we wanted to speak as well to our ability to take advantage of new federal programs. Next slide, please, Jamie.
Actually, Lourdes, if we can go back, I just wanted, you didn't brag on it, but I just wanted to point out to the board members, one of the great benefits so far of having Lourdes Zapata with all of her experience as Chief Diversity Officer, she got here and she said, hang on a second, let's pull back on this Scope B. We were, sort of about to go to market on it and really take a look at how we really mentor small businesses. And I think Lourdes has really recast the scope of this so that we're providing training and technical assistance that will be much more meaningful. It's exactly to that point of, this is not just an effort to get work to small businesses of a certain kind. We're trying to grow small businesses so that they graduate through the tiers of the program. We've also, through legislation, increased the upper tier of the program so that within this program you can run a $5 million job at this point, but then you graduate from that upper tier and you can go and prime work that's of an increasingly large scale. And I think Lourdes gets a lot of credit for recasting the way we're going to do that assistance work in the future.
Thank you for that, Jamie. We were also, just through the incredible hard work of the MTA, not just increase the thresholds of contracts, but we were also able to extend the time that firms are able to participate in our program. So we're now, it used to be you were able to participate in the program for 4 years and then you were graduated out. Now we can keep them in for 5 years and make sure that they're maximizing their ability to work on our contracts. With respect to the federal program, the MTA's capital program relies on and supports an enormous labor workforce within New York and our region. Recent federal guidelines from the Biden administration and the bipartisan infrastructure law has opened up the possibility of including local hiring on public projects. This really represents a significant opportunity for us. By encouraging local hiring, our MTA capital projects can stimulate economic growth within the very communities that they are set to serve. And that does inject income and opportunities into areas that are often struggling with limited resources. So the MTA launched a pilot program where we selected 4 projects that were awarded in late 2022 and 2023, and we established local hiring goals for all of them, starting with the design build services for ADA upgrade at various stations. That includes the installation of new elevators or replacement of existing elevators, and some state of good repair work at 4 stations in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Manhattan. These stations will be brought into full ADA compliance. Our second project entails the design and construction of the new Jamaica Bus Depot and parking lot. And that will convert 3.5 acres of York College property to a temporary parking lot to accommodate the relocation of buses from the Jamaica Bus Depot. The Rockaway Line Resiliency and Rehabilitation Project has 9 separate elements, primarily focused around utilities and viaduct structural rehabilitation. And the last project, again, is also ADA upgrade and circulation improvements at the Broadway Junction project. So each of these hiring goals have a 20%, each of these projects have a 20% hiring goal, and that requires that 20% of the hours that are worked by New York State residents must be worked by local residents that are living in the zip codes that are surrounding the construction site, or by economically disadvantaged workers living in the zip codes where at least 15% of the residents are below the poverty line. So this is a relatively, I see you have a question, this is a relatively new project. They are in various stages of completion, but we are pleased to report that they are almost all have either met or on track to meet or exceed the 20% hiring goal, and we're very much looking forward to continuing that impact across the various projects that are federally funded.
Okay. That's a great presentation. I think we have Mr. Herbst and Mr. Chu.
Thank you. This is very interesting. I'm interested particularly in the local hiring, the pilot program. A lot of the contractors have bid on the work. If they are unionized contractors, how do you deal with the collective bargaining agreements in the particular projects that are in the area? Has that been reviewed and discussed?
And James, you want to speak to that?
Happy to speak to that. We're very proud of this because it really is a first. And we've been doing it hand in hand with labor. We've been talking with BCTC, in particular in the city, the whole way along. So far, we haven't had any concerns about meeting CBA requirements. The 20% means that the contractors are able to go to the union hall, get the workers, but there's also an incentive for them to, first of all, ensure that their non-construction labor is sourced locally, and then also creating that pathway into the union hall. And that's what really makes a difference here. That happens through pre-apprenticeship programs, local hiring days that the contractors will hold with the unions, and then actually, apprenticeships and making sure that there's some retention from apprenticeships. So I don't think, we haven't figured it all out yet, but we have very good collaboration with the contractors and labor in recognition that that's an important aspect of it.
Yeah, I know the day is running long, so I don't belabor it. I just wanted on this specific point, because I've been working on programs like this for close to 20 years, and they're incredibly challenging to pull off. I think the scale at which we're operating helps. So I would just ask for a future date to have like a more in-depth presentation on this one specific local hire component, and any information, even the agreements, because like this is this is real. If you pull off 20% on these projects, it's a big deal.
The politicians who say 20 is not enough, just how significant a lift this is when you're talking about not reconciling this with normal the training and hiring through the union hall that we're obviously obligated to do through our union contracts.
I appreciate that you assume that politicians listen to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me.
But other thoughts on this? I appreciate that we have two construction experienced members of this committee and recognize that this is a significant lift and we're getting there. Great presentations. I think we're about ready to call for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Herbst. Second, Mr. Chu. We are adjourned. Thank you.